the presentation. And you have seen the Neuroscience Center. Neuroscience is very, very expensive work because to make a neuroscientific diagnosis, a neurodiagnosis, you have to figure out how to see the inside of somebody's head. And somebody's head is covered with skin, it's covered with bone, cranium, it's covered with a lot of layers upon layers of tissue called meninges.
Dr. Eileen Whitaker has joined the meeting.
So to get to see what's going on in there is
Josephine Camera has left the meeting.
it's very, very hard even to make a diagnosis. Let me turn off my voiceover, which is speaking out loud here, so it doesn't interfere with the
Space.
with the converse.
Space.
Oh, I don't know what it is doing anyway. Now we have to bear with it because it's not coming. So why neuroscience is expensive? To make the diagnosis themselves, you need expensive equipment, ranging from CT scans, MRIs, and of course, because you cannot just see directly what's happening in somebody's brain. And that is supremely expensive. And then also treating neurological disorders is also very expensive, costs a lot of money. So when people get into neurological conditions in Africa, it becomes very, very difficult to cope or even to survive. So you can see the incidence of death due to neurological disorder is very, very high. And so that's why these neuroscience centers are very much needed. But in fact, we need our brain to survive. So brain should be the first thing it should be the first thing we consider when you think about investment. Yeah. And so a neuroscience center in Africa it's not only going to be good for people living in Africa themselves, but for everyone else in the world. That means for global health. Now, what will it take to do that? See, a neuroscience center of excellence where you can make diagnosis and you are certain about the diagnosis. That means that you can detect the diseases before even the disease happens. You can detect the disease before the disease happens so that you can stop it from destroying the patients. And then we can and then we can get if you make the diagnosis, then you can start treatments. So those treatments usually are expensive. And then, first of all, to ascertain the diagnosis called diagnostic ascertainment, you need a lot of laboratory tests and imaging tests. The laboratory tests, blood works, which requires to do a lot of bloods, and you do some nuclear medicine to check what's going on in the bloodstream. A lot of neurological disorders in Africa are caused by parasites and bacteria and viruses. And those actually are treatable, but if you do not know they're the ones causing it, you cannot treat them. And then another way now to make the diagnosis is through imaging.
Jose Rodriguez has joined the meeting.
Imaging is through the CT scans, MRIs, and those are very, very expensive tests. They're actually manufactured here in Boston, in Massachusetts. That's where they originated, CT scans, MRI, that kind of imaging. And then after you do all the diagnostics, you might find somebody had an infection, which inflamed the blood, the brain itself, the brain tissue, or had a virus, let's say bacteria, parasites, malaria parasites, and such things. And then you need to get treatment to go all the way inside the brain. How do you do it? But then the toughest of all situations is when there's something growing inside the brain, which needs to be removed, through surgical intervention. That's where neurosurgery comes in. And that requires you to have an operating room, operating theaters that can help you to operate, open somebody's cranium and look inside and actually remove out the offending thing, see the tissue, the tumor or infection, or even a bleed that could be happening there. And then what do you do? In that theater, of course, has to be done well because the incidence or the likelihood of success depends on the quality of the operating room itself. So the operate and the quality of the people working in the operating room. So all those things cost a lot of money, if you come to think of it. But it's not the money itself, it costs ingenuity. How can we actuate that genius to create such a place? I mean, a place where such neurosurgical work of excellence is happening. Now, in our calculation, to build such a place, you need, as Frida has explained, five different things. You need a clinical suite. Clinical suite is where you see the patients, you make the diagnosis and all that. That is a patient place. And then including the inpatient, outpatient facilities. Inpatients, about 100,
Computer has started screen sharing.
100 ward,
For this screen.
100,
Computer has started.
100 wards, 100 beds in a place. Then you have intensive care unit. And then as Frida has shown, and then it needs laboratory diagnostic places, imaging centers, and it's going to need also information system to be communicating. Information system is everything. And then besides that, you're going to need what? You're going to need the money to build all those. How do you raise such money? And that's why we are here. We're here today, as we talked about last week, is understanding how to form capital, raising money. So we have calculated and seen that the total capital outlay, that the money required to just build the place, is about $15 million to make a center of excellence. That sounds like a doubting amount of money, $15 million. How can you get that money? Now, the way money is raised, well, in Africa, in Kenya, we have a system called Harambee, where we get together and throw that money in mchango. That's when we have this round table, or we call table, merry-go-rounds, where people get together and raise money. But that money, when you contribute money in the traditional, when you are raising money together, when you contribute money for one another, it helps. The money, everyone who donates, of course, gets participates in donating the money. But the why that money eventually does not gain traction, the money contributed in those merry-go-rounds does not gain traction, is because the money itself is not represented in the marketplace. Representation, money gains a secondary value when it is represented in the marketplace. And that representation is what the decentralized finance or the blockchain has enabled us to do. And that we now have things called tokens, such as the actual token, that for every dollar you contribute, you receive a token. See that? You contribute the dollar, you donate the dollar, but then you receive actual token. This means you have given away the money, but the money comes back to you. The money you gave, the money. Now that thing is what's called the mystery of capital. It's called the mystery of representation. Why it seems very, very difficult to form capital, because we have never understood how to represent the money we are contributing for our projects for one another. And so it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes a representation of money. Every single shilling, every single dollar gets represented in the marketplace. And that means it can actually be sold and retraded and gain value on its own. So this is the deal, that if we all get together and we say we're doing a fundraising $15 million to build a this neuroscience center, and everyone who contributes $1 receives one actual token. Then that actual token itself that you have received is now then registered in the decentralized finance platform, and it can be tradable, it can be sold. So you can actually sell that token later on, or you can wait for it to appraise in value. That means the money you donated for the public good comes back to you as a form of return in investment. See that? That way, in the West, that has been understood very well. That is why Hernando de Soto in 2000 released a book called The Mystery of Capital, Why Capitalism Triumphs in the West and Fails Everywhere Else. The mystery is that we in Africa have never understood the representation of value of the work that we do every day, the representation of value of our contributions. If you contribute $1 and then that dollar is not represented in the marketplace, it's almost as if you have contributed nothing. That value is wasted, is lost. And that is what's now called poverty. So poverty is not because people are not producing any value. Poverty is not because you are not representing, you're not donating, or you're not doing these merry-go-rounds, you're not raising money. Poverty means that the money you raise is not represented in the marketplace. And that means that it can actually not earn any returns for you. So whatever you contribute just dies there. You could imagine if it rains only one day, rain only one day, then you plant all your crops, then it rains, no more income.
Raised for 3 seconds to.
So all the contributions you made, yes, disappears. All the rain that it just becomes a waste of time, and the seeds that you planted disappear, and that is what is going on right now. We need to change that, and we must change that right now because we have the technology for changing that. Now, the blockchain decentralized finance technology is what helps us to do that. Now, that technology of representing the value of your contribution is what we call capital formation. So what we are saying today is that the neuroscience, the neuroscience centers of excellence in Africa, we would mint 15 million tokens and then ask people to, we then create a plan for how people can get those tokens in people's hands so that you get one token when you contribute $1. And when you get one token when you contribute $1, then you have $15 million for the total capital outlay to build what Frida has shown to us. Okay.
I think someone had a question.
Someone has a
I
question.
think they raised their hand.
Yes. And so let me say just one final thing, then we can do the questions. So then we're here, and I think Frida, I would like you to put this slide on how people can participate with the Actuate Academy, because this we really have to train people. We have to educate people about the blockchain itself. And the training itself is offered by the Actuate Academy, which is one of the arms of the Actuate Society for Decentralized Science. Now people can participate in contributing in we're learning about how this is going to work by participating in the Actual Academy according to the slide. And see the particular people who have got money and they would like to donate to charity. This is the way you donate to charity and the charity donates back to you. You make profit when you donate to charity. That in the Actual Academy, we have created this process where when you donate some, like say $10,000, you get 10,000 actual tokens. And then we train people because it's going to require massive public education to build awareness of how all this thing is going to work. And so keep this slide here, then we can respond to the question. What was the first question? So Frida, can you read the question?
Hand, yes.
Yes. Please raise your hand, Frida.
I can't see anyone who has raised their hand.
Somebody has raised their hand, yeah. Maybe you can post a question in the chat. Or risk. We can open this discussion anyway to
Okay, if you have any questions, you can just go ahead
Dago
and
has left the meeting.
Mhm.
go ahead and ask, or you can post your question on the chat, or raise your hand and unmute.
This is Wendy. I've heard a lot about rug pulling, about how people invest and then like people who anyway, I don't understand it enough to know, but that was kind of the responses I had when I was asking people what they thought about blockchain, and they were saying that, or the tokens, and they were saying there's something called rug pulling where they build it up so it's worth money and then they sell it all off or something. And I thought, what are the safeguards to prevent that? Or is that just an ownership issue, with the person that starts the coin?
I can make a short comment.
Mhm.
That usually comes with meme coins. There's something called meme coins that are designed in the has a purpose of specifically doing a rug pull. It's not meant or by the creators or designed for actual practical use that's beneficial to a community. It's just designed to capitalize on a meme and then continue from there to cash out for the early investors. That's all it's really designed for, and that gets mixed up with overall, coins, the overall concept of coins. So there's a separation there, and I'll let Machuria comment on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jose. Rug pulling, and thank you so much, Wendy, for your question. Rug pulling is people just being inauthentic. These are inauthentic people. They are just bad actors. They are nasty people. But you see, they're always nasty people, stupid people who take advantage of our technology. The idea of rug pulling is that people who are coming to say crypto or the blockchain itself just to make money and not just for the utility of it. It's a technology. Blockchain is a very powerful technology, decentralized finance. But then you can see there's a lot of Oompa Loompas, nasty people out there in the world. They are quite foolish and stupid. And they use the blockchain for kind of stupid stuff. Okay, they are there for speculation. Speculative because speculative, like what you see people uh making a coin and speculating, as Jose said, meme coins. Meme coins actually have no utility. They have no they have no actual work they are doing in this world except to make money. So they are basing on people speculating, and when they speculate, then they can actually sell off everything, and then they leave the market. That's called draft pooling. But they don't have any long-term commitment. They don't have vision. They have no mission except to make money. That's the bad part about bad actors who are taking advantage of this crypto. And so, and you see, the way now to when you get involved in cryptos or let's say the blockchain or decentralized finance is to evaluate what's called the fundamentals of the project itself. So when it is something called fundamental, their projects, when you ask them, what is the business? What's the fundamental of your business? What's your vision? What's the mission? They don't have any vision. They just tell you we're making a token, say like a meme coin. And a meme coin has really no fundamentals. The idea is to just pump the coin. So this they're
Speak hand raised for 3 seconds.
they're concerned about pumpamentos, to pump the coin up, and when the price gets a certain place, they withdraw all their money and they leave the market. That is one way. Those people are inauthentic. I mean, in Christian terms, you could say they are sinful people. Then we have other people who are actually genuine. They are not disingenuous or inauthentic, but they're not competent. Because this is high-tech stuff, by the way. This is not a joke. Serious high-tech, okay? So it requires a great deal of competence to understand how the technology works. And it's not just the technology itself, it's understanding how the society works. There's something called social technology to understand people and how they make decisions. So
Keep hand raised for 3 seconds.
there are people who make a coin or maybe a token, and they haven't understood the people themselves, the community or the market, how it's going to do. And so they don't have what's called the staying power or the resilience. So they give up. After people have put up so much money, then they come as if they have hit a roadblock. They don't know. You don't know what to do next. And then you see, because it requires some gray matter, some thinking. And really, you don't have to you don't have to have all the answers by yourself. But the thing is to ask for help. Some people are too arrogant to ask other people for help when they hit the roadblock. They don't want to go forward, and then they decide to withdraw the money, and that's called rug pulling. So there are two reasons for rug pulling. One reason is some people just want to make money for no reason. Yeah, without any work, without any utility. Then there are other people who are just incompetent and they get overwhelmed by the situation, and then they give up along the way. And see, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who who have got ambition. You see, having a very big vision does not translate into action. Having a very big vision will not translate into action. You have to act. And that rug pulling is a symptom of a person who has a lot of faith but has no action. As James said, in the Christian Bible, that faith without action is dead. And that is what results in rug pulling, is somebody giving up on the way because the vision wanted to do, of course, then he cannot keep up. He cannot keep up because he's not putting the action that is required to make this happen. It takes really a lot of work. And so what I want to assure every one of us here that I personally know the intensity and the magnitude of the work that lies ahead. But am I afraid of that work? No, I'm not afraid of it. And that's what makes all the difference. Cast away the fear, cast all the attachments, and then you just do what must be done every single day. It's all about action. And then we succeed.
So Materia,
Mhm.
Wendy, I believe, also had a second part of that question, which is about preventative measures. Can you address that, please?
Or preventative measures.
So how can you prevent rug pulling? I think that was a part of her question. So she asked, what is it? And then how can you prevent it?
To
Well,
prevent,
one of
yeah.
the things that I got from your presentation so far,
Yeah.
like about having the way that I'm relating to it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is it's almost like a stock where you have you have a company, you have a board of directors, there's all kinds of legalities around it that kind of dictate what can be done and what can't be done, and then people buy stock in that company. Is that a fair correlation?
It's a fair correlation. I think you're exactly on point. Now, is a form of representation of value. See that? That form of representation of value, it's known as capital. And we in the West, say in the United States, we register those stocks through the stock market, like the National Association of Securities Dealers, the NASDAQ market, or New York Stock Exchange in New York, or say London Stock Exchange in London. And then, of course, there are so many regulations about that. Now it happens that decentralized finance, like DeFi platform, they do exactly the same thing, but there's no regulator. There is no regulator like human regulators, let's say, like the way you get with the NASDAQ or the London Stock Exchange, but the regulator itself is the code. See,
Smart contracts.
the smart contract is the regulator. And so how do we now bring human regulation into that? And that is why you see the US government is working on that. Securities Exchange Commission has not the US Securities Exchange Commission has not actually come up with the final document, but they're working on it. The US Congress is seriously working on it. But in the in Europe, United Kingdom and Germany, I mean, let's say the European Union, they have formed the MiCA regulations. That's what they're calling them. And so Japan has got regulations, South Korea, South Africa, Johannesburg. So you can see the government is responsive in certain ways. So the tokens are similar to stock, but they are somewhat different because they have something added into them. They're not just like the bear stock because they also have utility. Token itself is a stock, but it is also money and it's also information. So it has a lot of property that go beyond the stock itself. So, but as you said, it's like the stock, but this is now stock that is different. Now, how do we prevent rug pulling? First of all, is to be the awareness and making sure the proponents of the projects like ourselves, we know their regulations. And what has become very good here in the United States, it's that the US government in this new administration has become blockchain positive, and the Security Exchange Commission has instructed people like ourselves who are doing this to ask questions and to tell the SEC what we are doing. And we have already written to the SEC and told the Hester Pierce herself. We wrote an email. She gave us her email, and she told us, write to me, tell me what you're doing, so that they're actually watching. And this is how we're going to make sure that we stay on the good side of the law. We observe, and we ask Hester Pierce, are we doing this thing right? If you're not doing it right, you can tell us, because she's one of the commissioners at the Security Exchange Commission. And that is the way I think they should be, because in the previous administration, there was certain hostility that people were afraid to disclose what they are doing in their blockchain projects. But now there's no fear because the Security Exchange Commission said, do not be afraid. Tell us what we are doing, and then we can guide you. So we can create guardrails. And that's very, very good because it's now opening up a pathway for even other countries like Nigeria, like Kenya, South Africa. And now people are feeling comfortable, even Australia, even say the European Union, the Arab Emirates, and they are now looking at what the SEC is advising and how it is guiding the company, how it is advising the crypto projects, like the blockchain projects, as we move ahead. Yeah. So,
And lastly,
Mhm.
there was another thing I noticed that could maybe help Wendy. I noticed she said she was speaking to other people about blockchain, and there seemed to be a confusion or mixture of blockchain and crypto. And I think if we clarify the difference between blockchain and crypto, that can also help her.
Yes, thank you.
Real
Oh,
quick,
yeah.
can I say something real quick just to, I think, add to what I'm hearing Wendy asking? I think one of the things she's asking is because she mentioned the traditional centralized structures like board of directors. I think the real question she's asking, based on everything that's happening in this space, we know about FTX, we know about other trading platforms that have folded, and we've talked about midcoins and bad actors. I think what she's asking is, we know we have traditional, when you talk about guardrails, we have traditional effective structures like the board of directors, how we run traditional companies. How do we integrate that into what we're doing to ensure we have great controls around this situation? So anyone donating or investing in this project is not worried about, this may be bad actors, even though we have utility behind what we're working on. Because like you said, with incompetency, a project that has good utility might also look like a rug pulling because of incompetency. So you can't tell the difference if something fails. And so I think that's what she's asking. How do we integrate traditional controls around what we're doing so it doesn't end up the same way?
Okay, I think I can answer that question. It's about what you're asking is called governance.
Right.
Okay. Governance now, and in fact, the governance you come to discover governance on the blockchain is even much more beautiful than it was much beautiful and possible and expanded compared to the governance that was in the traditional corporations or companies. And the way governance is going to be happening is that if you get tokens, and there's many of the blockchain companies that actually have understood this very well, they use tokens for voting. So they have one kind of token which is for raising money, fundraising, like the actual token. We can use that, and people buy it, and then we get money, and then the organization gets money through that token for raising money. And then they have another token, which is known as a soul-bound token. It's a non-fungible token using for voting. That token is not for sale and it is not transferable. So, and that is the way people, that's the way we come into the blockchain. So when you have those two tokens, that there's a token house, which is in the treasury for fundraising. And that everyone who owns that token, who has that token has got a right to
Addition has joined the meeting.
to have the SBT or the soul-bound token or the NFT. So this NFT is only one, it's an identity token, and it's used for voting. So the governance means that people who have tokens have got also the ability to vote, to make decisions about what's going on. So for example, Ethereum, what they do is they provide a document, they decide, the Ethereum research a document called Ethereum Improvement Proposal. And then they ask people to vote with their soul-bound tokens about that new proposal. So you have read about Ethereum EIP1, EIP2, and then they keep people vote. So the governance is distributed or decentralized governance. So it becomes a bicameral governance structure where you have
Keep hand raised for 3 seconds.
where you have
Keep hand raised for 3
the funds tokens for raising money, and then you have the soul-bound tokens for voting. And the soul-bound tokens means that the soul-bound tokens are not for sale. So it does not matter how many tokens you're holding if you have a lot of money, you can hold a lot of tokens. That means that you can overvote everybody else. But now we don't use that large number of tokens for voting, but use a soul-bound token, which is the individual token that everybody who has that soul-bound token can vote, and they have equal voting rights. And that's what you're talking about. Distribute. Besides now the guardrails we have, then we have community governance using the soul-bound tokens.
Also,
Yeah.
I would like to add in general, on the security side of this concept of blockchain, you have two primary things to consider. There's something called immutability, where, and Materia can talk more about that, where you cannot audit or edit the past. Any records is fully public, so that would be the second point. On the blockchain, the entire blockchain community can see all the transactions that happens. So the community audits itself through something called proof of work and proof of stake and some other ideas. So with these two things in mind, the community governing itself and immutability, that also increases security to the extent that many organizations like MIT, many US federal agencies, they've used blockchain in a way that not only speeds up their processes, but actually improves auditing and security.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, now we have bicameral governance, which is now it's like your token house and what's called the voting house, the citizens house. Citizens can vote. And we have, you see, like in the US government, we have the bicameral governance structure where you have first of all the voting by local people, then the senators, and then of course the Congress. Same way that this now, but in the corporations do not have that. This is why this thing is very powerful, because you get ordinary people voting for key decisions in the company. That means, they vote for things that matter to them. using their own tokens. Yeah. I thought that was Mr. Eo. Does that make sense? Does that
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I come from a compliance background. So with the technology in place, and to kind of address a Windows concern, it's something to think about as we because there will always be humans involved in the process. So there also has to be other guardrails and processes involved just from a compliance standpoint. We know about um, Celsius issue. We've known about FTX. So, and my background is in auditing. So the independent audits, it's also a critical piece in this process, how that is integrated with the system in terms of the voting of by ownership. But just independent processes just to ensure that the system is doing what it should be doing, and adding some compensating controls, even
Marilyn
traditional structures, just to ensure the confidence of the folks that are involved in the process. Also, it's also critical. It's just long term something to think about. We've seen a lot going on, so that's as the space is evolving. We have all the tools, traditional tools and emerging technology, just to ensure that people are confident that even when you have a project like this that is going to be helping the community, you have great controls in place to ensure their confidence going forward.
Well, actually, that brings up a good point. You said that there's always going to be humans involved. Well, that also works when it comes to code. So yes, we have something called smart contracts, and that automates a lot of the security that we would also apply to the whole system. Once again, Mature can talk on smart contracts. So smart contracts is actually a feature that regular governing bodies don't have access to on a 24/7 level and through an automation level. So he can talk more about that. And of course, I acknowledge that even though it's a great tool, and humans are involved on the human side, while on the computer side, code could also have some errors in code too. But we'll let him address the smart contracts if that's what he would like to do.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jose.
Mhm.
So what I think, particularly in the case of FTX, like what happened is that FTX, first of all, there's somebody who was disingenuous. That's what's called about inauthentic people. Some Bankman-Fried, this brilliant young guy, he was here in Boston, very, very smart, but see, he wanted to do all the governance by himself. And I think
faculty of
And I think this is the thing is that people we need to really educate people, massive public education. Remember, that's why, so that these questions can be understood ahead of time by the public, like where there's no governance. There was no governance in FTX. In terms of what I talked about, the bicameral governance, there was no voting. And why you would see the big difference between, say, FTX and, say, Ethereum is that Vitalik Buterin himself has led us very deeply even to automating governance and creating that bicameral governance structure through the token house and citizens house, and also removing the plutocracy that was there. The plutocracy means that when only a few people in the board of directors are voting, making decisions, but then distributed decision making to everybody. So we have true, real democracy in the administration of the project. So, and so this is when you have to be watching out for when you're looking for the fundamentals of any project, is that does this project have the principles of democracy that the project drivers themselves can be held accountable by the token holders themselves. And can we automate that process through that bicameral governance structure by having tokens for voting? And I think besides Ethereum network itself, you have seen the very, very initial decentralized finance lending platforms who such as what, who became very, very successful, and because they implemented this bicameral governance. And then you have the Optimism Foundation. Yeah, of course, even Coinbase now is in their base token, and who else? Quite a number of them are doing things the right way, and so we can be assured, so long as we educate the people. And that's why we have made this academy, so that we go training people, you know,
Chan has left
of
the
all
meeting.
levels, let's say of all cadres. We train people at all cadres, so they get to learn the blockchain. I think the solution is in educating our people as many as possible, so that they are not, they're not rug pulled, or they are not blindsided by someone like FTX, who can promise very, very good things, but really he's inauthentic because he does not distribute the governance. Yeah. Yeah, and then so all that now is in the smart contract, as Jose said, and it should be encoded. But then what smart contract is, it's like technical language, but which is not too technical. People just need to understand it. You know, a smart contract is an agreement that's being executed by the computer. And I can tell you, in this world,
Ibango.
the the way we operate is just an agreement, agreeing with one another. So how can we automate those agreements and make them work? And then they help us move forward. Go ahead. Somebody was asking a question. Yeah.
No question. I think that kind of addresses, if Wendy wants to speak to it, I think it addresses what she was asking.
Yes, I'm really excited, and I know Dr. Macharia, we spoke about how nonprofits. I'm excited about what you're doing with the hospital. I'm still a little confused. Like Actuaria, is that a different coin? So I understand for the donations you're giving coins for the decentralization project, but then is there a separate coin for the hospital, or is the money that you're raising going towards the hospital?
That is a great question. The coins themselves, they are a representation of value. Just like every company that gets listed in the stock market issues stocks, shares of common stock, and then first of all, it authorizes. So remember, in terms of capital formation, the steps are as follows. After you've worked out the market, the value of the project, you decide how much money that's going to be. And then the company authorizes, the board of directors, they authorize a whole number of shares for that project. Those shares are then issued either privately, or they issued publicly in initial public offering. It's exactly the same thing that is happening with the blockchain. So coins are like shares, as we said, that every project that comes must come together and decide what is the capital, what's the value of this project. That is called valuation. And then the project, the proponents of the project, what do? They sit together and say, we shall need to authorize so many coins instead of shares.
Bishop has left the meeting.
We shall need to authorize so many shares, and then you issue the shares to the public. So the Neuroscience Center, it's a project now. We've seen the value is about $15 million. Then we say we need to mint.
Bishop has joined the meeting.
We need to mint 15 million coins called NSC coins. So they are not minted, but they are going to be coming in December according to plan. But where does that happen? It's going to happen through the program we are doing at the Actuate Academy, where we teach the whole team, this is Dr. Mubale's team, how to organize that, to go through the business plan, and they get to know about the tokens before we can even mint the token. There's going to be another token, a different token, just like the shares of a company. It's going to be a token for neuroscience in Africa. See? So every project is able to issue a token. And see, there could be some people in the marketplace telling you that you don't need all those tokens. Now that is you need, just like all companies that are going public, they need shares for their own. Every company that want to raise money through decentralized finance needs a token. Of course, because the token we said is it is the token for representation of the value that that company is going to produce.
So Wendy, one of the good analogies that I've come across for this is the blockchain is the train tracks and the train is the coin. So from a station like South Station in Boston, that would be like the blockchain with all the tracks. Then you can have multiple trains going to different locations, the green line, the orange line. So those would be different companies and or like I said earlier, coins. And within that blockchain, you have different coins per line, per orange line, green line, blue line. So that could be a good analogy.
Excellent analogy, Jose. So do you get that, Wendy? That every
I-
project needs its own, just like every destination needs its own train, with its own train. Yeah.
So, okay, so yes, I think I do. So, but you can have like a general, like for example, my nonprofit, Let's Make the Difference, right? So I could do what I'm thinking and tell me if this is wrong. Like I could start with a coin for the whole organization, Let's Make the Difference. But then I've got all these projects that we want to fund. We have the peace and conflict movement that we're causing in Kenya, and we want to take that, we want to expand that everywhere. And then we have the bread, the bakery, creating the bakery schools to end hunger. And then we have the tree planting, so each one of those would have its own coin, and that would be people's way to vote for that they want that project to happen, right? But I guess I'm still a little confused about how it raises in value and how you determine value for what the coins are worth. Or if it's a nonprofit and a donation, like it seems like for the hospital, people actually own a part of the hospital like they would if they bought stock in it, right? But when you're talking about education, how do you create the value for every person that's trained? Like you're doing that for actuary, for
So actually, I want you to imagine a company like Google. Okay?
okay.
Google, when they came around in 1999 or 1998, they said, we are going to help you search whatever you want to do, you're looking for in this planet, using the page rank. That's Larry Page. He said, I can get you everything you want to know within a few seconds. How do you even earn money helping people find what they want? So like coming to a library. At the beginning, Google looks like that kind of idea shall never make money. It's like education, teaching people what's the value there. There's so much value, but that value is intangible. But yet, it is the greatest value you have in the planet because you can see Google is the most valued company today. How do they do it? Because what Google is doing is selling attention. Okay? So the value is in the attention. And you see, a lot of, say, like in education, like if you have education in a not for what is considered not for profit, is actually a great profit if you can get people, you can hold people's attention for a certain amount of time to educate them. And that's where the value is. And of course, we can go how the econometrics of attention later on, because that's a deep
raised for 3 seconds.
it's a deep discussion. So what we are saying is that there is value, you just need to understand it. Now, what you ask, if you have a company, see like Google again, Google has YouTube, it has Gmail, it has a lot of, you'll see all those, but they are represented by one Google common stock in the market. One common stock represents everything that's under Google. But when they're beginning, YouTube, when it came along, it had its own separate stock, different stock. Now, if you can dissect Google, you will find that each one of those were a separate company which issued different stocks, and then those stocks were later absorbed into this one common holding entity called the Alphabet. So even if today, if you go to NASDAQ, you will see that NASDAQ has got different types of stocks that that own entire Google. For example, when Google started off way back in 1998, they issued 4 different type of stocks, and we call them series. There was the preferred stock, which was sold privately to the rich people, so they can raise money, and so that was sold through a private offering. And then they went to do a public offering. And in the public offering, they issued the Class A common stock. So Google has Class A common stock. It also has got Class B common stock. And then it has Class C common stock, which they call the capital stock. You see, that was just the Google platform alone, let alone YouTube came along. They also raised the money to acquire Gmail. They also raised money to acquire all the other things because the Google Photos, I think Google Photos.
Raised for 3 seconds.
So you can see same thing with Facebook. So Wendy, now when you understand all these things, you know that you have so many, you may have so many different subsidiaries, let's call them subsidiary
Chico has left.
ideas within you're making a difference. That could be like the Google common stock, but then you have Class A, Class B, Class C, depending on how the whole thing is structured. And so you can have tokens the same way. That's what's called, this way it's a highly technical genius in terms of capital formation. But what I would say, before you can do all those things, you can do making a difference token, which is going to fund the Peace Initiative, and then you're going to fund all the other projects that you're going in, or you can have for each one of those projects, you help to mint their own token, but they are under one umbrella, just like Google has got Alphabet, which is holding all those shares. And so also say Facebook has now this holding company called Meta, which owns Instagram. It owns a Facebook Messenger. It owns a the Facebook page, and on all that's going on in Facebook, and so many other things. And all of those things have their own individuality in themselves, but then all of them are held by Meta. See?
Last night, I was speaking to my Uber driver actually about YouTube. I was one of the first people on YouTube. I was offered the alpha test, the beta test. I declined to take those tests, but on the first public day, I was there. And for that year, I learned how to make money on YouTube. I learned how this whole brand new thing where you can make money from a video in your bedroom. I try to understand that idea, and I started consulting brand new people coming to the platform. Foodwishes.com is one of the people who I helped initially. And during that year, I was telling my family about YouTube and how you can make money from videos. And they thought it was a pyramid scam. You know, it was very funny. And that's because, just like Macheri is describing in Africa, how this concept of raising capital and investing in markets, how the US does, is not really in the consciousness of people in Africa. Well, this whole idea of making money from videos and likes was not a concept for pretty much anyone in the world at the time. So yeah, it took some time. It took about 2 years for this to become known and a viable approach to earning money. But yes, that took education. It took some time, and when it comes to converting a token into a value, well, that would be synonymous to turning a like on a video into value.
That's right. So with this called attention economy, and see, the information economy is about the attention that we pay to the information, and you get paid for that. See, and that's what has value. Now, as I explain those structures for you to
Keep hand raised for 3.
those structures like Google initiated here, which has happened over since the last 30 years, I think, since about the year 2000. maybe 25 years away. Seems to be the mystery of capital, which Hernando de Soto was describing, but then we haven't understood how it actually happens. And what I'm saying is that the curtain to the temple has been split wide open, and that mystery is now demystified. Now, but we have to educate our people how that works. There's no doubt, because there's a lot to know. So, when do you ask about Actuate? Actuate is a token, just like Google's Alphabet, the Google token itself. And you see, Actuate is a foundational token for translation science in Africa. And we want to use that token to actuate or to accept translation. Translation means turning your knowledge into things or making things from what you know, using that knowledge to add that knowledge to material resources to create new products and services. That is what we want to do. So that you can consider that the foundational token for actuating the knowledge. So that's why today we are talking about actuating the knowledge in neuroscience. But so we are going to be actuating things. And that means that it's very, very important that Actuate itself gets value for doing that. People can buy it in the marketplace. It's already in the market. You can find it in Uniswap or PancakeSwap or any other decentralized finance. You can swap it with Ethereum or USDT, and then you become a holder of the Actuate, or you can buy it directly from us, from the Actuate Foundation itself. That means that you send money according to this table. So then that does not prevent Actuate itself from helping other people to create tokens for their projects when they come and learn how to create tokens and how to make. Then how they gain value, because that's the next question. How do those tokens become of value? Is that the value of the token, just like the likes, how does say a YouTube that I mean a YouTube channel, you post a video on YouTube, you have had people earning hundreds of thousands of dollars by sharing their content sharing on YouTube today, and they are not even tokenized yet. But they have this creator economy that was made possible by the second iteration of the web, which is called Web 2, where all these creators can actually make money by sharing their content, which seems to be for free. But then when people like your content, you get followers. And that's what I'm talking about. But then when you get so many followers, people like, and then you get paid for that by Google or even by Facebook or even by Instagram. So there's a lot of people earning money on Instagram just for doing videos like this, like what you're doing right now. And there's a lot of people earning on YouTube and making podcasts and stuff like that. That content or creator economy was not possible before the information technology came along. Now we are taking it to another level that now, imagine the creator economy that we have had over the past 10, 15 years at Google, Facebook, and Instagram. And so there were those companies that were in charge of it. Now the creator economy becomes decentralized. That you yourself as Wedi, you are now the sovereign owner of what you are creating without YouTube, without Google taking the money and paying you, but you get paid directly for your own content. That's what we are talking about. So how do these tokens gain value? First of all, the tokens gain value just the way the creator economy is creating value and creating millionaires. Even some people are billionaires in that. Second, the token itself is tradable and it's liquid. That means that you can sell the token in the marketplace, just like in the stock market. So
Yolanda Benjamin has joined.
What causes the increase in value for this token really has nothing to do with the project, as you have seen the meme coins. The meme coins do not raise value because of the fundament of the project. The meme coins raise in value because people are exchanging them. When the tokens are exchanged, like when you do in the foreign currency trading, There's something that's called the invisible hand in the market. That's speculation that when people are trading, just exchanging the tokens, the token keeps on growing up in value. For example, when Bitcoin came along in the very, very first beginning, it did not have any specific use case, specific utility. But Bitcoin gained value because of being exchanged against USDT, getting traded against Ethereum. So when now we now create these tokens, it means that we have to be ready to put them in the marketplace so that they can be traded. And when they're traded, that is when they get a whole life of their own. And they begin to gain value just because they're being traded. Besides also them having utility. Yeah. But who sets the price? It's called the market. The price is when 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 somebody orders like the decentralized finance platform is going to calculate the price. And this is what we teach in the DeFi class. How when you put your tokens on the marketplace in the decentralized finance platform like Uniswap or PancakeSwap, then how do you create liquidity? And then how do you determine the initial price? The price is actually determined almost spontaneously. You say, I'm going to exchange one USDT, one actuate for one USDT. That's mean $1 value. And then when you do that, then you tell the people the token is the market, then people can go there and buy it. And when they buy it, they are bidding. They set their bids. So it is the people themselves, the market, the people. If you get too many people under bidding the token, then the price is going to go low. But if you get too many people ordering the token at the same time, the price increases. So who determines the price is the demand for the token itself.
New unread messages.
It's similar to Pokemon trading cards or Beanie Babies or the Elmo doll. Same thing. These things were just regular toys, but then they skyrocketed because of the market and the trading.
It's trading, yeah. So the price comes from the market. Yes, go ahead.
And just to add to what Dr. Machara is saying, and I think part of Windows' question was the initial valuation. I think once you determine the cost of the project, the 15 million, what he's saying is then he is issuing $1 for each token, just based on the cost of the initial project that is being worked on the utility. And then after that, the market takes it from there. And that's how you do the valuation, which makes sense. It's kind of a very conservative approach. The other piece, not to oversimplify the process, when he said this initially, since this is a social project, in the past, even it's still ongoing, mostly you raise funds as a nonprofit and you make donations. So if we wanted to raise 15 million, it's going to be folks all around the world donating to the project. But when you donate, other than your tax write-off, you don't get anything to show for it. But with this technology, you can actually get issued a token that you can now or in the future decide to sell that or hold it or whatever you decide to do with it. So it's a different capitalization structure in the Web3 space. So that's what this is. And I do agree with the fact that for every single project, you want to issue a token. I'm also very experienced in the nonprofit space, multiple projects that you have to raise multiple funds for. So if everyone that donated to this project had a token, they could hold on to it and sell it in the future, actually have some value that they can hold on to. So that's what it is. And that's sort of almost a very simplified explanation to what's happening. You start the valuation with the cost of the project, and the market takes it from there. And for every single project, you issue a token so that donors have something to hold on to, not just their goodwill in giving money to the project.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ifyong. It is right on point. Now this blockchain technology has made it possible that when you give your money for free in a donation, that money earns you a lot of money in the future. Can you believe it? He's making profit while doing good. It's called the gift that keeps on giving. How about that? That means if you give 15 million,
Raised for 3.
if you give 15 million, and then that gets into tokens, and you actually receive 15 million tokens. Let's say that.
Addition has left the meeting.
And then you hold on to that, then the tokens multiply the value in the marketplace 10 times. You have 15 million times 10 in the future, so you make lots of profits. And so the idea of not-for-profit financing has kind of been now overtaken, let's say it's an overthrow of the traditional thinking of how to structure giving. So giving becomes something that is actually gives you return on investment, not just the feel good for say I feel good that I gave so much, but then you also have return on giving. And I think that's what we should call it, return on giving.
No, what you're talking about is a paradigm shift. So with each version of the internet, web 1.0, 2.0, and now we're in 3.0, each time there's a whole new paradigm of trading, earning money, or going about business. So in Web 1.0, Manchuria can talk more about this. The entire internet looked like Wikipedia. The entire internet looked like Wikipedia, and there was no content. So there was no such thing as earning money by sharing content. But when we had Web 2.0 and the capabilities of sharing content existed, then there was the ability to earn money by sharing content, which was a brand new idea, as I mentioned with the YouTube example. Now we have the advent or the at least public, utility of the blockchain. So now we can put the trains that used to exist in Web 1 and Web 2 that used to just sit there in the train yard now have a track on blockchain and Web 3 to run on. And with this, now we have more options because now the trains can move and we have the infrastructure to do things that were never possible before.
Yes, I'm sorry about my machine here. It keeps on talking, and I've been trying
Just join the meeting.
I've been trying to turn off this voiceover. I don't know how to, I don't know what's it's not responding anyway. I apologize. But thank you,
Yes,
Jose.
yes.
But I hope that everyone is following, is keeping track besides the interruptions by my screen reader. So yeah, blockchain very powerful.
New unread
A
messages.
whole new paradigm of giving. That what was considered charity. Let me tell you what is actually amazes me about this blockchain. Blockchain is able to recognize value of those things we could never ever recognize before, and we actually put them on the balance sheet. Things like love, which is charity. You know, charity is love. Things like love, things like hope, things like faith. You know, Paul said when he was writing the Romans, of those things there is no law. Faith, love, and charity. Or faith, hope, and charity. But even Einstein himself, he was stifled by the whole question. He said, you people, there are things that count but cannot be counted. Because the mathematics of the age, it's called calculus, which we used to form to understand the economics of the age or the economics we have today, relies on calculus, is not able to comprehend things like love, things like hope, things like charity, things like faith. And that's why we classify those things charitable things. And we fund them through the charitable tax donation, where they can only get the government to give you a tax write-off. However, today, the blockchain comprehends the things of the things that could not be counted, things of love, charity, and hope. That means that you can now see them in the balance sheet of the blockchain, and because whatever you give for free, you receive a token for that, and that token can now get into the balance sheet. So it gets in the balance sheet, and it now brings you profit. This means that what Einstein was saying, he was stupefied by the idea of the calculus, even being a very brilliant mathematician and physicist, he said there are things that count, but that cannot be counted. Now you say today you're happy to report to Mr. Einstein that, well, those things he thought could not be counted, now fortunately they can be counted because you have a new form of
New
mathematics, which is known as the mathematical theory of information. This is what gave us computer science, mathematical theory of information. This is why for those people who have studied the traditional math, traditional accounting, they may not comprehend what is going on. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We have a new math, which is known as the mathematical theory of communication. You can read that work, 1948 by Shannon. Came out of here at MIT. We came out of MIT, and that's what gave us computer science. The mathematical theory of communication is able to comprehend things that counts that could not be counted, things like love, charity, and hope. And that's what we are saying, that now you can make profit thinking that you'll be doing unprofitable work in
It's
charitable.
similar to what I just said earlier. If there was no ability for us to monetize likes before Web 2, right?
Yeah.
So when that technology of Web 2 came, then we had new options to monetize things that were not able to be monetized. So now, same thing here. We can now monetize love and hope and charity. So it's pretty much the same thing, just in a different form.
It's new math. New math, the form here, the paradigm shift we are talking about is an economic paradigm. Okay? Driven by the theory, mathematical theory of communication. Note this because people are going to ask you, we have done these calculations for the whole time, we can't get it. Tell them that's old math. Forget that. There's a new mathematical theory of communication. They should read Shannon, 1948. He's got Elwood Shannon, 1948. Here in Boston, who gave us that theory, and that is what has made this possible.
So I think it's around, I don't have my clock, but I think it's around 10:30 or so.
Yeah, so yeah, we should be, but I think this has been a very, very good seminar. And what I would like to encourage all of you is that, first of all, load your information, learn as much as possible about blockchain every single day. Sign up with our course, and I would say for those who are doing projects, let us help you train people about blockchain, because you're going to need to train all cadres of people so they can understand how to use it. And it's because it's a massive community education. Yeah. And so I had maybe these final words, final questions.
It's Wendy again. So how long does it take, like, to from start to finish to create this? And I guess I need one final clarity. We were looking at analogies, like the way that I was explaining it to someone yesterday, and I want to check this for accuracy, is like when you say assets, you cover stocks, you cover real estate, you cover money, all different kinds of foreign currency, your car, everything is an asset, would be equal to the blockchain. And then you have the different things within it, like your NFTs and your coins and your crypto. All that is like how you define what type of an asset is this. Is that correct? Or maybe you can clarify if that's not quite accurate.
You're right on point. Asset is what you do of value. And that asset is something that can be put on the balance sheet to say, I have got assets. That's why I say there are things that assets of great value, but we could not put them on the balance sheet. Things like love, like the love of a mother. Say, for example, getting pregnant, carrying a baby. Is that an asset or not? I mean, what value is there? What value does getting pregnant? What value does it?
Your battery is.
Does it bring to society? My battery is low. It's going to collapse. In any case, so that is an asset, and so, but it wasn't represented in the marketplace. So what you're saying is that there is we have a way of representing that value, and that value is an asset. Get pregnant already is an asset. Carrying the baby to term is an asset. see something of value. Delivering the baby is an asset. These activities, like if you have a company, say like FedEx, when FedEx delivers service to you or delivers a product to your door, brings it to your door,
Zoom meeting from Katea.
then that
From Katea, David Mubale.
that service that FedEx has provided, it considers it's an asset because it's doing work. These are not physical material assets. So they're assets that are not material that could not be captured. Besides now the material asset like land, buildings, and maybe aluminum or iron ore, they're assets that are intangible assets. Okay, they're not physical, they're ethereal. And we
Two
can,
unread messages.
and those assets of love, of hope, we are now, what we're saying is that we are now able to account for them. So asset is anything you do that brings value. And then you see each one of us is doing something of value every single day, but that value is never captured and represented. Does that make sense? That asset includes things like getting pregnant, carrying a baby to term, delivering a baby. Because delivering a whole, if we can pay FedEx for delivering a package to you, why don't we pay women for delivering babies? What's a bigger asset? A baby or a package? Tell me.
I think I see it. I think I see it.
Yeah.
And real quick, to add to that on the technical side, these digital assets, that is the standard, the technical definition for it. The Financial Accounting Standard Board actually in 2023 came up with the standards for describing crypto assets or digital assets and as intangible goodwill and other assets. So it does go on the balance sheet as an asset. And that's the standard description for those assets.
And where can you find that?
If you Google digital assets and FASB, as in F as in Frank, A as in Apple, S as in Sam, B as in boy, I'm a CPA, so that is the standard disclosure for those assets.
Yeah, so your assets. Thank you.
If I heard correctly, I think I heard her analogy start with the blockchain is the asset and the tokens are the way to describe each part of that asset. I think that's how I heard it. If that's true, I would.
The tokens are actually asset. These are digital assets.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm just trying to make sure I repeat it correctly what I heard, and so that's the correction I wanted to make, or the clarification I wanted to add is that the blockchain is the facilitator of the assets, and the tokens are the assets. The blockchain is just like I said, the track is just facilitates the utilization of those assets.
To be finally nuanced, yes, thank you. The tokens themselves represent an asset. They are representation of an asset. It's like a certificate to the asset. The asset is delivering a baby. Because the baby, that delivery process is what's an asset. And even we know that, the mother she has delivered to us a new asset. That whole thing, we usually say it.
Has stopped screen share.
We usually say that things when social discussions, but now we are putting it real on the balance sheet that those things, matters of love, charity, now become represented with a token, and that token becomes that asset. Asset represent, the token representing that asset. Okay, which is the asset now. I need to make it easy for accounting. You could say, I have so many assets, but those assets represent all the newborn babies
Keep hand raised for 3.
who are delivered us by lovely women throughout the planet. Yes. See?
So the blockchain is the underlying technology, and the end product is the token.
Yes.
Because that's what you use in creating the token, the blockchain. That's the technology you use to mint that token. So we're not using the traditional mint, we're using the blockchain to create that token. So the end products, the process is a blockchain, like you said, the delivery process, but the actual end product is the token itself, which is the asset that you're going to end up with, that you store in your wallet.
Yeah, I consider the blockchain. I consider the blockchain to be, if you think about the orange tree and the oranges. So the orange tree is the blockchain. The oranges are the assets, are the tokens. For example, then of course the fruits, the orange fruits, you're going to use it for nourishing, family, creating vitamins. So, but you cannot have oranges without the orange tree. Although some people who have grown up in the city may not know that. They don't know that oranges come from orange trees. They think they're manufactured in China. That's why they're worried about the tariff. No, oranges come from orange states. Okay. So the tokens come from the blockchain token tree. Blockchain is a token tree. High school students would Marco tree.
Yes,
Yeah,
Merkle tree. Yes, yes.
the Marco tree. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so the timeline. So the course that you're offering will help take us through the creation of a token and then marketing it and all of that.
Everything. We have the courses are in 3 levels. Level one is called basic. Blockchain basics is for everyone. So we can know how to interact with the blockchain. That's like getting to know how to open a door into a building and entering there. That is we learn blockchain fundamentals in level one. Then that's blockchain basics. Level two is where everybody must learn how to build a smart contract. Blockchain two, and it doesn't matter what you do, whether you are you're doing we're digging wells, whether you're doing water projects, whether you're doing peace projects, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're doing a healthcare hospital, you learn how to create a smart contract on your specific projects. And then we learn where to host your smart contract, because there's Ethereum, there's different blockchains, Ethereum, Binance, Polkadot, and Optimism, there are quite a number of them. But
Keep hand raised for
then,
3.
then we would consider each one of them, and then we decide which one to choose. Then we have our own blockchain team, which will work with you to help create a token. And then after that, minting the token is not the hard part. The hardest part is building a community, the marketing, creating the whole market for it, developing that market. So that is covered in the second intermediate course. Then we have advanced blockchain courses where we'll be talking about tokenization of real world assets. Now that is much more sophisticated, about how to tokenize things like intellectual property, how to tokenize the real estate, how to tokenize equipment, so that they can actually also be traded in the markets. What kind of tokens would you mint for that? And how do they look like? That is having say, for example, real world assets like real estate. You can have a whole apartment building, or you want to build a whole apartment complex, but you don't have all the money by yourself, but you can tokenize that project, and then you sell small portions in form of tokens for that real estate project. Yeah. So that's what we want to do.
Yes, I'm a former real estate agent, and my brother has been a broker and he's still a broker for over 25 years. And in that field, I learned about syndication. Syndication is exactly what he described. You can buy an entire hotel block, like one of these big ones that take up the whole block downtown, in downtown Boston. And if you don't have all the money, which you likely wouldn't, to buy an entire hotel block, you would get a portion of that, have a small stake in that. You would bring maybe some specific expertise on investment. You might bring a good credit score. You might bring different qualities to this deal. But whatever the case is, you can own a stake in that hotel as a regular, common person who's not necessarily, multimillionaire or anything like that, through this same idea that he's talking about, tokenization of real world assets. So, and this idea has existed in traditional, business like real estate for I don't know how long syndication has been there, but at least throughout my lifetime and for decades. And then this idea of trading between people, peer to peer, has been there for centuries.
Yeah. So thank you. Again, Jose, So you see that what has happened in blockchain, we're taking the same ideas from the old finance, traditional finance onto the blockchain, becomes automated and becomes accessible throughout the world. So tokenization of real world assets is what we call syndication here in the United States and perhaps even in Europe. But we don't have that in Africa. We are talking about getting many people together to own one apartment complex, and then they continue earning from it through their tokens. Because the tokens are going to be tradable and in the market. So these courses, to come back to Wendy's question, the very first basic course is about 8 weeks. That's a basic, and then the second course is also 8 weeks. But the 8 weeks, they are like 8 lessons, but we do 1 lesson per week so that people are not overwhelmed. And they are going to be on Zoom, and of course, we can have small groups wherever you are for practice during the week, so that by the following week, you have fully understood what was needed. So it is 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks that way. The advanced courses, the 2 blockchain courses in the advanced blockchain and tokenization are going to be 10 weeks, but those ones have lots of practical examples that people must do. And but then you're going to discover that once you start the basics, we go along all the way to the advanced, that it will be quite easy for you to follow through all the way to the end.
Actuate water project by blockchain in 15 minutes.
Dr. Masharia, I think I see Dr. Mubale here, so maybe as we go along, we can give him just a few minutes to say a word or two.
18 minutes left, Dr. Mubale. How are you? Dr. Mubale. Today,
Good. How are you?
we're talking about neuroscience in Africa. Neuroscience centers. Tell us your vision for neuroscience. What have you been seeing in your eye of the mind?
Well, this is I was reaching a stage, I was calling it a childish dream. But my vision was to build a neuroscience centers in East Africa. How did this come about? After my residency in South Africa, I went briefly to India. I spent 6 months in Mumbai.
Box edit. Zoom meet.
And when during that time, I saw many East Africans, Kenyans, Somalis, Ugandans, coming to that hospital for surgery that I think was, trivial things that you could do back home if it was possible. I mean, I've never really worked as a neurosurgeon in Kenya or Uganda or Tanzania or Somalia. And I saw lots of patients. Most of the patients who are operating on there were from those regions. So I hoped that if possible, at some stage in my life, that would have centers in East and maybe Central Africa.
Read the meeting.
Centers of excellence where we could perform these procedures. I came up with a silly template where I would have, say, a hospital beds of 80 to 100 with specialties in neurosurgery, neurospine, neurocranial. And maybe at some stage we would incorporate other disciplines, including neurology. And the purpose would be to offer the best service at an affordable price within the East African and Central African context, because the majority of the patients I saw were from those regions. So I looked at the facilities that one can bring aboard in neurosurgery. I mean, they're not many. They're expensive, but they're not many. As long as you have maybe a couple of neurosurgeons, you have a QSA machine, you have an operating microscope, you have an operating endoscope, you have neuronavigation, you have an MRI center, and you have a functional casualty, ICU beds, maybe up to 10 if possible. This is all possible, provided you get well-trained neurosurgeons on board. You have an effective casualty, and you manage patients with the decently, basically, courtesy and decency. Then we'll stop the flow of patients to India and maybe even South Africa. So that was my dream.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mubale, for telling us that, because this dream is not a childish dream, it's a real dream which are going to all work together to make it happen. Okay? But it's going to require massive training for everyone to understand the blockchain so we can use it for raising that $15 million to put up neurosurgical center. So what it means that we tell everybody we know that neurosurgery is coming to Africa in real sense, that Africans do not have to travel to other countries to receive neurosurgical care, but indeed they will get neurosurgical care at home just where they are, because we said it. And when you say something, we do it. Because action, faith without action is what? According to James, faith without action is dead. And let me tell you, we are not dead. We are people of action. That's what I do. I believe. So because we believe, we shall receive. That's what it says. If you believe, you receive. Okay. All right. Now we wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll be sending you a questionnaire about this. And of course, I think maybe Frida, you have posted a questionnaire called a decision card. You have complete that.
Yolanda Benjamin has left the meeting.
And,
Unread message
and
from
of
Frida to
course,
everyone,
yeah, fill in that questionnaire so that we can
From Frida.
we can follow up. We're going to have the same conversation next week, but probably we'll be discussing a different project. But this idea is that the fundamental idea is we train everyone. We are committed to massive public education on blockchain, not only in Africa, but in the whole world. That's why we are on Zoom.
So one last question, like what are the actual costs, not counting the classes, of creating the digital currency, the coin?
The cost one of all, it takes a lot of brain power. So that one you can use it. It's free. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, there now the cost you have to pay to other people besides your own brain is that you have to pay Ethereum. If you're building on it on the Ethereum network, you mean the token, and then you have to deploy it. Let's say deploy it in the main network. It usually comes around, that's about $600 only. Can you believe that?
Okay, somebody told me it costs like $10,000, and I was just like,
No. I mean, it maybe the maximum you could be costing is 2,000, but then Binance Chain is much cheaper than to deploy a token in Binance. It's also about 600. But I think Ethereum is much more expensive than Binance, which is about say $2,000. But it's not 10,000. Okay, it's just a lot cheaper than that.
and
Yeah.
is it possible, like with a nonprofit, to raise funds to do this and make, I mean, kind of, and offer them like their first coins or something like that? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, now we're kind of like making promises, but it's like,
Yeah.
how would
I'll answer that. It's called a pre-sale. See, even people like Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been selling those Cybertrucks. He hadn't built them. He sold about 80,000 of them, isn't it? Cybertrucks before he could build a single one. And
okay,
people are paying $120,000 to buy a Cybertruck that's not built. So that's phenomenon of called pre-sale. It's there in every business. So pre-sale, it means that you can actually raise money. You tell people, I'm going to mint 15 million tokens. I'm doing a pre-sale. And of course, you have to arrange that you do it formally so that you don't get in trouble with government.
exactly.
You do a pre-sale and people can give you money before the token is even minted. But we want to encourage people to make sure you have understood everything first so you don't do the rug pull. This is what happens. If you can have people, you can have people doing pre-sale, they raise money, they promise people, but then they don't know the technologies of the work involved in actually minting the token, and then they commit mistakes. And then after that, they're not able to do it, and then they hit the bush. That is disgusting. So this is why we want to make sure that people are well trained to understand this process, the practicalities of doing it. Pre-sale that you can do it, you can raise money before you mint the token, but it is, of course, your reputation matters.
So in the courses, at what point in time of, we got 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks, at what point in time can we start doing pre-sales for the coins that we'll have enough understanding and guidance from you?
When you can begin in the 4th week, before we start talking about in the 4th week, when you understand the structure of the smart contract and how it works, then the 4th week you can actually talk about pre-sale, because you have understood what the and because or you will have developed a white paper which doesn't cost you much. You will write it, and the white paper is the one that helps you actually to put. The white paper is like a business plan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that business plan, you know when the pre-sale is going to be like, what's going to happen, and you have all the timelines, you have the roadmap, everything, and then by the 4th week you should be able to do that. Then you can now start the pre-sale in the 4th
And
week.
when did the classes start?
The classes are beginning this week on the May 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a link to join or to sign up?
Yes,
Or
Frida.
is that what the forms is in here? Okay, perfect.
There's a form in there, yes. So Frida is a great teacher of ours.
Situate water project by block.
Sorry.
Oh,
Frida.
this is,
Hmm?
yeah, this is about the tokens, is it not about the class?
Yeah, Frida is going to post the form
Okay.
about the class, and of course we're in communication. So the courses should be beginning on Wednesday this week.
This is wonderful. Now, and are they recorded? Because I have commitments in the weeknights. Is it
Yes,
every Wednesday?
every Wednesday we shall be recording them, yes,
Okay.
on Zoom.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very good. Thank you so much. It's so informative. So much excitement and hope. Like opening our eyes, to possibility. It's really exciting. And, for those of us who are committed to, creating transformation in the world, to actually have a way to do it, to fund it. It's very, very exciting. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. I really appreciate everyone's attention, your time to be here. You have a good one, because we have to leave the place now, and we have to stop the meeting. But thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, everyone.
Nice meeting all of you.
Have a
Thank you.
great weekend.
Yes.
Rodriguez. Zoom meeting.
So
All
cute.
right. Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone. So the form of shared there, you can just go ahead and fill in your details, and then we'll get in contact with you and share with you the form for starting the classes, and maybe even the recording for this meeting. So thank you for your contributions. Thank you, Wendy and Eo and Dr. Mubale and also Dr. Masharia and Jose. It has been a wonderful discussion. So if there are no further comments, I think we can just adjourn the meeting and meet next Saturday.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we have a whole week now to discuss all these things. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.